Hello, everyone. Welcome to Living Well. Today, I'm Angela, and today we are talking about how to open your heart wider. And there won't be a whole lot of philosophy, belief sharing, etc. today. Today is more about the premise of grace, opening your heart wider, and what grace actually looks like. We know what it feels like, and we'll touch a little bit upon that. But what does it look like to open your heart wider? What are the acts? What are the words? Whether it's at work, at home, with a neighbor, family member, friend, in your community. So every week we talk about space and giving space, allowing space for yourself, peace, finding peace and purpose, and living well today. And that feels different to everybody in different ways, but the commonalities are usually that contentment that we're looking for, that easing up of life, a sweeter satisfaction, and our day-to-day experiences with ourselves and the people in our lives. So when we talk about an open heart, we naturally imagine warmth, kindness, love, empathy. But what if our opening our hearts wider means holding space for complexity, for contradiction, for paradox? So each of us holds experiences and beliefs that may seem to oppose each other. We might feel sadness and joy, love and loss, understanding and confusion all at once. That happens in our own lives, right? The laughter through tears is an emotion where you're upset about something, you're crying, and your friend does something or says something to make you laugh. And in that moment, that mixing of those two opposing feelings or seemingly opposing feelings, it's a duality. That's paradox, duality. And it can be difficult to accept. But when we learn to hold space for contrasting thoughts, for things that do feel and look like oil and water, if we can hold space for both, what happens is we're allowed to go deeper beyond just being right about something or having the answers to something. It's an openness. And the openness is with yourself and with others. And the openness isn't about finding agreement. This particular openness is about finding a way home to ourselves and to others, even in our differences. So we're exploring, what does it mean to hold this type of space for ourselves and for others? And we're going to look at practical ways to extend grace in all of those places that we talked about, and maybe even with people you don't know, strangers on the street, at the grocery store, in line, right? At the movie theater, if you still go to the movies. So the idea of paradox in our hearts, when we hold two seemingly opposing thoughts or emotions, maybe it's hope and fear, strength and vulnerability. We're actually courage and fear. We're actually creating space within ourselves for a deeper level of understanding of both of those things. Think about a time when you felt both joy and grief, maybe after a major life change. You know, you're buying a new home and it's so exciting, this next new chapter. Because buying a home is never about the home. It's always about the home is there to give you a reflection back to you about you, like everything in life. So you're buying a new home, you're opening this next new chapter of your life and allowing more beauty to flow into it, into this new home. but you're saying goodbye to an old one. And it's bittersweet, bitter and sweet at the same time. That is paradox, bitter and sweet. And yet, sweet and sour. There are certain aspects of our lives where we really can find beauty in that diametrically opposed experience or belief system. So hope and fear, I mean, you could be at a funeral, grief, and you bump into a friend, or someone shares a story about the person who has passed through, and you're all laughing. You're sad at missing this human, but you're joyful in the memories that that human and you created together. That's duality. So when you can hold both sides without forcing them to be alike, if you can hold both sides without saying, no, they must be fully aligned, this coexistence, it breaks your heart open wider, which we could all use forever and ever and ever. It lets us see life. It lets us see others and ourselves with more compassion. Now, you can make an active choice to say no. If they're not in agreement with me, I don't care how big the problem is. We're talking about world peace or world leaders. There are actually bigger problems than that. If we're talking about the biggest problem that could possibly exist, I don't know, a meteor is barreling away at the earth, and we're, the similar thing that maybe happened to the dinosaurs is going to happen to us. Think of, apocalyptic. This morning, a dear friend and mentor of mine wrote about apocalypse, and the actual origin of the word, the Greek origin of the word apocalypse, is transcendence, is transformation. So apocalypse, everybody thinks, fire. Yes, well, the phoenix rises out of the fire. We're not talking about literal fire, of course. We're talking about a breaking down of something old and unuseful and a rebuilding of something more beautiful. So that's, you hear the word and you think doom. But when you go deeper, you see something else lives there, the possibility of something else. So you get to make the active choice. Each one of us do. I don't care the scope or scale of the problem. We are in a splitting of realities of how you experience, and you get to choose. You absolutely get to choose. We talk about this often. So opening our hearts in this way of allowance, it's not about having it all figured out. We'll never have it all figured out. That is not for us to figure out all of it. But it's making room for complexity, which is actually a simple thought. Just make room for it all. Don't push away something. Don't resist something. Resistance never helps anyone. So allow it to coexist with who you are. And it actually informs, both become more informed as a result. And allow space for others simply for how they show up, however they're showing up today, at work, at home, whoever they are and however they are showing up. Can you open your heart wider to love them as they are, as their beliefs are? It makes everything better when you can do that. So let's try this thought exercise that builds on the idea. I invite you to think of someone who's in your life right now who may have a view, a behavior, a life experience that's very different from yours. It could be 180 degrees from yours. complete contradiction to your own perspective, ask yourself this: can I hold space in my heart for both my view and theirs? What does it feel like to let both exist without needing one to be right or one to win? How can I extend grace to them, knowing that they too are just finding their way? That's all we're all doing, is finding our way. So it reminds us that grace is not about changing others. It's not about fixing something. It's not strong-arming someone into your own perspective or, frankly, judging them. It's about meeting others where they are and recognizing that we're all on a journey trying to make sense of our own paradoxes. Because here's the thing: if you are experiencing paradox out there in the world, after these last elections, for example, and you're just racking your brain, both sides are racking their brains about how the other side sees it that way. Okay? So everything, now here's a tenet. You either believe this or you don't. Everything that we see and experience in the world is a teacher. It's a reflection back to us for us to question what is being triggered inside of us. If we're not being triggered by something, it means we've likely resolved that paradox within ourselves. That's disruption, metaphorically speaking, that disruption in ourselves, likely something from our childhood or through our teenage years, etc., that is diametrically opposed to what it is we believed at the time, what it is that we wanted for ourselves, what it is that we desired, longed for: protection, safety, security, love, affection, acknowledgement, respect, whatever it might be, across the spectrum of emotions and needs, physical and emotional needs, intellectual needs. So use that disruption to go deeper into yourself and see if you're able to open wider and hold more. Not in a heaviness. Oh, I have to, this weight I have to hold, this weight I have to bear. No. It's actual space. It's light. It's air. It's light. Yeah, it's light, which is love. So let's take this into the workplace. Acts of grace at work. Extending grace can create understanding and trust, even when we don't agree on a way a project is supposed to go, or a promotion that someone gets, or how to carve out the 2025 budget, whatever it might be. Here are some practical ways to practice grace at work and holding space for differing perspectives. Allowing others to be heard. When a colleague shares their opinion, even if it's total opposite of yours, practice listening deeply. Don't just shut down and start going in and having your own internal dialogue about it. Try to stay open and remind yourself that understanding doesn't mean agreeing. It means you're offering them space to feel safe in expressing themselves. Work needs to be a safe place. Otherwise, innovation shuts down. Responding with kindness instead of defensiveness. So if someone criticizes your work or disagrees with your approach, try to pause. We practice this. Pause. Breathe. Respond with being curious instead of reaction. Tell me more about that. What does that mean? Can you share more of that? That's interesting. I'm not sure I understand it. Can you share more? This is grace. And that act of grace turns a potential conflict into an opportunity for mutual respect and a way forward. Because if people start shutting down, things stick right where they are. They don't move forward. Being willing to find common ground, even in situations where opinions differ, look for that one small thing that you can share. It could be a common goal, a shared respect for part of the process, the kind of day that it is. Let that connection guide you so that you can ease the tensions and open up creative possibilities for bridging that gap. Acts like this help create a workplace where people feel valued, a space where they feel respected, they feel heard and understood. It's small ways, but the small ways are always the big way in. The small opening is always where the profound bigness is on the other side of that. Acts of grace at home. Now, I'm less experienced at this aspect. And I don't have that much of an opportunity really to practice it because there's just me in my home. So I try to extend. So if you're an empty nester or if you're single, you're on your own. What I do is I try to imagine that the world is my home. So the grocery store is my home. The people who come to help me with my home to make it beautiful, the people who share my home through Airbnb, etc. When I have a workshop, when I invite people in, when I have a party, I always try to think about those experiences and letting a loved one express their true emotion, allowing your partner, your children, a family member to share their thoughts without immediately trying to solve or change their feelings. And I'm a solver. I want to get in and fix it. So many of us are, particularly women. Can you simply pause and just hold the space for them, for their experience to unfold? Even if it contrasts with your own, even if you look at it and say, well, what do you mean you're anxious? What do you mean you're worried about that job interview? What do you mean you're great? You're good at it. Rather than going in and trying to build them up or correct them or say, well, no, you can't do it that way. That's why you have to do it this way. Now, this is a biggie for me. So I continue to evolve this in myself. And as I say, each one of these shows is a lesson for me too. Responding with patience. So at home, emotions can be super raw. This is where we really show our real selves. If we're not showing it at work, we show it at home. If your partner or child is feeling down or distant, or they're quiet towards you, whatever, rather than taking it personally, like you've done something wrong or they're not, being respectful of you, whatever it might be, just take the other path. Try it. Offer them patience and understanding. And they may well be, even if it's a family member, even if it's your partner, you don't fully ever know another person, ever, even your partner. There are spaces within them that are private to them, and they could be dealing with things that you don't fully see or understand. Practicing compassionate acceptance. This is a biggie. Whether it's accepting someone's quirks, their beliefs, their lifestyle choices, grace at home means letting each person show up authentically and knowing that this diversity in the home is part of what makes family relationships unique. It's easier said than done, and I understand it. And those are probably more difficult at home than at work to bridge those gaps. But what I can promise you is that if you just consider that holding space for them and opening to these diametrically opposing thoughts or actions or beliefs, by opening that space, you're allowing a chance for something to move forward, for them to open, because more often than not, they will mirror you. If you lead with this opening, compassionate behavior, they'll likely lead. So, mirror you. So, acts of grace in your community. It's not just about who's closest to us, it's also the people that we pass by each day. So, when we hold space for others' stories, their struggles, their fears, their grief, their sadness, their hyperactivity, whatever it might be, even if they're strangers, you're sitting in a doctor's office and someone's on a plane behind you and they're shaking their foot nervously because they have nervous energy and they don't know any other way to get it out than to shake their foot, but it's shaking the back of your seat. Does that ever happen? Yeah. Or a bench that you're sitting on and they're, or they're tapping or they're doing something that is right. We can actually often resolve those things by simply breathing deeper, extending ease to them. Sometimes your energy is strong enough, they will just ease up and the shaking will stop. Doesn't always work, but it can. Acknowledge the humanity in strangers, whether it's a bus driver, a cashier, someone waiting in line with you, someone sitting next to you at a table, at a restaurant, whatever, someone that's helping you. Take the time to say thank you and sincerely mean it, or say, I hope your day is going well, or enjoy the sunshine today. Have a beautiful holiday season, whatever it might be. Little acknowledgments. It's the little opening that often makes the most difference. Let go of assumptions. If you notice someone who appears stressed or irritable, they're weaving in and out of traffic, whatever it might be, hold space for the fact that they might be going through something really challenging. And instead of reacting to their mood, extend a quiet moment of compassion, whether verbally or non-verbally, allowing them the grace to be human. Offering help when you see a need, sometimes simply asking, can I help you with that? Can I get the door for you? When you see someone struggling in public, helping someone can be a profound act of grace, especially if they don't accept or expect it. That surprise and delight, and you'll see it in their reaction. And when they don't accept it, because sometimes they won't, sometimes they'll be really closed off and really grumpy. Now, I tend to like to have the smile back or a nice gesture back, and I have to continuously remind myself that you're not giving to get it back. You're giving to offer them. And in the meantime, the gift for you is the feeling that you have that you offered grace. Yeah. And sometimes those little acts of grace can really make an amazing connection with people and could shift their whole day. You won't ever know that part of the story. It's not yours to know, just be kind and gracious in the moment. And lots of ripples happen. So here's a simple exercise to take with you today. Try one act of grace where you hold space for both your perspective and someone else's. Think of someone you encountered today at work, at home, even a stranger. When you feel a difference arise, no matter the size of the difference, pause and ask yourself if you can allow, wait a minute, can I pause? Can I allow for this view to exist without feeling the need to fix it or to resolve it or to strong arm it into my view? Just let it exist. And in this pause, let go of needing them to understand or agree with you. Instead, just give them a small gesture of kindness, a nod, a smile, an extra moment of patience. It's a way to practice opening your heart without changing the other person. And it's a reminder that grace is about connection, not correction. In the end, holding space for others. I was going to read a quote I have here. I'll do that in a second. In the end, holding space for others and for ourselves doesn't mean we eliminate or invalidate our own feelings or perspectives. It means we create enough room for our differences and our shared humanity to coexist, because we do share humanity with the other humans. So as we each find our own way, grace becomes the bridge that allows us to stay connected and coexist, even through the paradoxes. And of course, there are some people you want more than just coexisting with, right? You want collaborating with, you want deep intimacy with, you want, well, go deeper within yourself. And the more you go deeper within yourself and cultivate more and more grace, you will find over time that the collaboration can happen if it's meant to happen, and the connection can happen if it's meant to happen. Because all of this doesn't go without saying, but all of this is based on whatever shall be, and there is a bigger designed plan in play. So let it unfold, nurture it. If it doesn't mean to bloom, if it's one of those relationships that does not mean to bloom or to move forward together, it will fall away. But don't let it fall away without first trying the path of grace and kindness and compassion. Because what happens, regardless of that relationship, what happens is a deeper and more beautiful understanding and opening within yourself. More light can come in a more open heart. More light can come in a more open body. The more we make space, the more we make room for light and love. So here is F. Scott Fitzgerald. So for any of you who are writers out there, a pretty amazing writer. Yes, F. Scott Fitzgerald. And here's a profound quote from him about paradox. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Much love to you. God bless you. And may the universe continue to have your back in every way for living well today. See you next week.